started.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. Please sit.
My name is Amita Yalgi Swadin. I was born on July 8, 1978 in Columbus, Ohio. I was born with a full head of hair. It was summer. RJ?
My name is Raymond Guy McConney Jr. I'm known as RJ. I was born on August 9th, 1979 in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was summer. LL?
My name is Lucia Leandro Jimeno. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts on May 3rd, 1979 at 8:52 a.m. My twin sister was born 2 minutes before me. It was spring. Di?
My name is Diana Ruth Sands. I was born on March 16, 1981 in Albany, New York. I was born 3 weeks late by emergency C-section. I am an only child. It was spring. Gabby?
My name is Gabriella Marie Callender. I was born on Tuesday, December 27th, 1965 at 12:32 a.m. at Wingdale State Hospital in Dutchess County, New York. It was winter.
These are the names.
These are the names.
These are the names.
These are the names.
These are the names of people who hurt.
Kelly.
Stevie.
Vashisht.
Jay.
The neighborhood boy.
These are the names of people who helped.
Carmen.
Mama.
Sensei.
Pee-wee.
Nani.
I was asked to make a list of people I trust. I was surprised it was so short.
Do you remember that old public service announcement?
Say no, then go, and tell someone you trust.
But what if the person hurting you is the person you're supposed to trust?
Who do you tell then?
The mass media focuses on stranger danger.
The mysterious, scary monster who jumps out of the bushes, but
90% of children are abused by a family member or someone they know.
Only 10% of children are abused by complete strangers.
what do you think of when you hear the word survivor?
Warriors.
Someone who made it.
More than a victim.
Every day is a different answer.
Surviving is not the end point.
Surviving is only the beginning.
(1921)
1921.
1921.
1921.
1921.
1921 New York City.
August Heckscher, a German immigrant, millionaire, and philanthropist, donates land and funds to construct a building to house abused and neglected children and provide support for community activities.
In 1921, it is the largest single gift for child welfare in the city's history.
The Heckscher Foundation for Children will house a gymnasium, swimming pool, and children's theater, decorated with murals of fairy tales.
56 years later, it will become the home of El Museo del Barrio.
1938
New York City.
Winnie McDonald is 6 years old. She and her 8 siblings are sent to a Catholic state home. For 12 years, she endures sexual, emotional, and physical abuse at the hands of Catholic nuns. The trauma of this
The trauma of this
will reverberate down her life.
and mine, she will become my biological mother.
1958
New Delhi, India.
A young boy named Vashisht is sexually abused by neighborhood boys and servants.
There is no intervention.
There is also a family rumor that his much older brother molests little boys.
There is no intervention.
These family secrets will haunt my whole life. He will become my father.
1967.
Queens, New York.
My first memory. I am 2 years old. I am walking into my new foster home. My 3 foster brothers are staring at me. One of them whispers.
She's kind of funny looking.
I think to myself.
I don't belong here. They don't want me.
Then I do something to make them laugh. From then on, I think if I can make people laugh, I can make them like me.
1969.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Mandakini leaves an abusive and cheating husband in India and moves to the U.S. with her 2 young daughters. She earns 2 graduate degrees and raises her daughters alone. She is a divorced woman when divorce is still rare in the U.S. and unheard of in Indian communities. She will become my grandmother.
1973.
Queens.
My foster home is not a safe place. My brother Stevie begins sexually molesting me. My older siblings are deep into drugs and alcohol. My foster parents do not protect me. When the social worker comes to check on me, my foster mother says,
If you tell anyone you are treated badly here, they will take you away, and you will wind up in a worse place.
I do not tell anyone what is going on. I am 5 years old.
1973.
My foster brother Lenny calls me over and tells me to put my arm up next to his. He says,
Look how white you are. Look at your arm and look at mine. I'm black and you're not.
walking home from school, kids call out,
Zebra.
Oreo.
Cracker.
I am very confused. I thought I was black. I know I'm not white. Where do I fit in? I feel like an outsider.
1974.
I am 8 years old. I don't tell anyone what goes on in my house, but one person knows. Her name is Pee-wee. Years earlier, she was also a foster child in my home. She tells me,
I begged them not to send another child to that house, but they didn't listen. Now that you're there, I'm going to teach you how to survive.
she teaches me how to deal with my siblings. She teaches me how to stand up for myself. I feel loved for the first time in my life, and she will always be my hero.
1974.
It's August. I go with my family to Jones Beach. My dad makes me sandwiches and iced tea. After a day of swimming and playing in the sand, my dad and I take a long walk. We talk, and he seems happy. This memory is precious to me. I think it is the first and only time I bonded with my father. I am 9 years old.
1977.
Ohio State University.
Swapna meets Vashisht at the campus fair. She is an 18-year-old college student. He is a charming 26-year-old salesman. 3 months later, they are married on April Fool's Day. Shortly after that, he forces her to drop out of college, declaring,
No wife of mine will work.
they will become my parents.
1977.
The abuse continues. My brother finds ways to hold power over me. He says,
All the mature girls do this with their brothers.
I am closed in by shame on all sides. I am confused. I don't like the things he does, but I'm also singled out for attention for the first time. Usually, I am invisible in my own home.
1977, New York.
Antonieta and Frank meet through organizing in the Puerto Rican independence movement. He's a stick-to-your-guns native New Yorker, and she's an immigrant rooted in politics as a way to understand herself. They meet and it's on and poppin'. After the relationship ends, she finds out that she's pregnant. She decides to raise us on her own. My mom knows, even in the womb, that I am gonna speak up and demand to be heard. Organizing is in my DNA.
1977.
I escape my reality inside my imagination. I sit in my backyard and contemplate the trees and the sky. I focus on all things beautiful. Inside my mind is the only place I feel safe. I am 12 years old.
1980.
I spend endless days locked in my room writing songs and listening to my musical heroes.
Joni Mitchell.
Simon and Garfunkel.
James Taylor.
Stevie Nicks.
I want to express myself the way they do. When no one else will accept me, the page always accepts my written words. I teach myself to play guitar, and as I learn, my family yells.
Would you stop that damn noise?
But it doesn't matter. I join the school folk group and play my own songs in front of an audience for the first time. I am amazed when I get a standing ovation. For the first time in my life, I share something from the heart and am met with genuine approval. My life will never be the same.
1981.
Bergenfield, New Jersey.
My father's not as successful as he thought he would be, and my family is living above our means, mostly on credit. After forcing my mother to quit college at 18, he now insists she go back to work.
1981.
Although I was officially adopted into my family, I am still an outsider. At a summer church retreat, I confide in Father Paul about my brother's abuse. Father Paul says,
Next time it happens, tell him no.
I didn't know I could do that. Soon after I get home, Stevie approaches me in the kitchen. He begins to grope at me again. I remember what Father Paul said, and I stamped my feet and yelled.
No! You will never do that to me ever again.
That is when the sexual abuse stops, but the emotional abuse continues. I'm 15 years old.
1982, Cincinnati, Ohio.
I'm 3 years old when my parents divorce. My mom is now a young, single mom. She doesn't want to go home to her parents in Chicago. Sometimes she has to struggle to make ends meet. I go to a babysitter after preschool while she works.
1982,
I remember it clearly. I am 4 years old when my father rapes me for the first time. He holds me on his lap and tells me it is exercise. I tell my mother that my father touched me and I didn't like it. She confronts him. He lies and says he only exposed himself to me. He says he will never do it again. My mother does not leave him, and I will forget ever telling her.
1982,
At a family party, my brother gropes me and gets in my space. I tell him to stop, and he won't. I can't take it anymore. I smack him across the face. He smacks me back, hard enough to leave a handprint, and I yell.
I'm tired of you touching me whenever you want to.
I run to the bathroom. My mother follows me. For the first time, I tell her how Stevie has been molesting me for years. She says,
That's not true, Gabby. Stevie's my son. You're just upset now. That's why you're lying.
1983,
I am going into my junior year of high school. I can't take living in my house anymore. I tell my mother I'm moving out. My mother doesn't understand why I want to leave. She asks me what I need, and I tell her.
I don't need things. I've never needed things. All I want is to live in a house that is happy, and this is not a happy home. I have to go.
I move out. I am 16 years old.
1984,
Maplewood, New Jersey.
I am 3 years old. Like all working parents, my mom and dad have to find a balance between their careers and childcare. They place me in a local daycare center called We Care.
1984,
Cincinnati, Ohio.
My babysitter is a very small, chain-smoking Appalachian woman. She lives with her 3 teenage sons and the occasional boarder in a big, rundown house. She babysits a bunch of kids off the books. I play with her sons, their friends, and whatever other kids are there that day. We watch tons of TV and Roughhouse. There is very little adult supervision. Most of the time, it's a lot of fun.
1984.
One night, not too long after I start at We Care, my father finds peanut butter behind my ears. He thinks it's a little weird, but kids get into strange stuff. Not long after, my parents begin noticing unusual changes in my behavior.
Di refuses to eat vegetables and peanut butter.
Di becomes hypervigilant about her mother's safety.
Di insists that she's picked up from daycare before nap time.
Later, my parents will wonder how they missed the warning signs.
1984,
My father has now established a routine of raping me at least once a week, usually on Thursdays when he's home and my mother is at work. I don't tell anyone, and I often lie to cover up what's happening. It is one of many survival strategies I develop.
1984.
Queens.
It's my prom night. I decide that I want to go up to the place I was born. I ride up with my friend on his motorcycle to Wingdale State Hospital. We stay up all night looking for it, and when we finally find it, I discover that it is actually a psychiatric hospital. All my life, I have been told.
Your mother didn't want you.
That's why she gave you up.
You're different.
You're crazy.
When I see the place I was born, it's like my worst fears are validated.
1985,
New Jersey.
I have many happy childhood memories. After school, I play with all the kids in my apartment complex. I can keep up with the boys, and I make sure they all know it. In the courtyard of our building, we play all kinds of games.
Freeze tag!
red light, green light.
Duck, duck, goose.
Down, down, baby, down by the roller coaster. Sweet, sweet baby, I'll never let you go. Shimmy, shimmy, cocoa pop, shimmy, shimmy, pow.
We stay outside until the street lights come on. I stay away from home as long as I can.
1985.
Mexico City.
We are visiting Mama's family. My mom is the only Mexican Salvadoran with light skin and an afro that I've ever met. Her mother, my abuela, was from El Salvador and had dark skin. We are having breakfast at our favorite downtown cafeteria when this chocolate cinnamon-hued woman, obviously indigenous, comes up to my mother. She says,
"You are so lucky your children are so light. They're going to have a good life. They are so beautiful, not ugly like me."
I'm confused. I wish that I could look more like her, like my mother's family. I wish I had her brown eyes instead of my blue ones. I know right then I will question every time someone calls themselves ugly. It is my first lesson in understanding skin privilege. I am 6 years old.
1985, Cincinnati, Ohio.
There's a teenage boy who comes to the house. His name is Jay. He is friends with my babysitter's son. One day, when we are all sitting around watching TV, he takes me behind the couch and shows me how to hump. He rubs himself all over me. In some ways, it feels good, but it feels wrong. I'm 6 years old.
1985.
I see the movie The Color Purple. I see how the character of Celie is abused by her stepfather, and I realize
There are other people out there who've gone through what I've gone through.
it is so hard to watch that I have to leave. But I go back the next week and see the end of it. It makes me sad, but so happy that this movie is out there so people won't feel so alone.
1985, New Jersey.
My parents find out that my daycare teacher, Margaret Kelly Michaels, has resigned and is being investigated for child abuse. They meet with the police and other We Care parents to find out what the accusations are and which children were involved. It's a nightmare for them. Years later, my mom tells me,
I sat in that room and hoped beyond belief that you were not one of the children. I did not want to believe it was true. No one did. We were educated, rational people. No one wanted to jump to conclusions. We wanted proof. I've never seen grown men sit in a room and sob like that.
some of the many accusations include sexual acts involving peanut butter. Some of the accusations include telling kids their parents will be killed if they tell. My parents start making the connections to my behavior changes.
1985.
One of my survival strategies is to become an overachiever at school. My parents are proud of me when I win awards. In art class, I create an intricate drawing of a rainbow-colored unicorn. It takes weeks to perfect it. But when I get home, I destroy it. I tell myself,
It's no good. What makes you think you have the talent to be an artist?
no matter how well others say I do, it's never good enough for me. I feel like a failure. I am 7 years old.
1985!
Jay is not always at the babysitter's. When he is there, he tries to find me alone. He touches me and makes me touch him. Sometimes he takes my clothes off or takes off his. When I protest, he says,
What's wrong? I'm just teaching you how to please a woman. You'll thank me someday.
One day, another boy finds us. We both deny anything is going on. I am scared, ashamed, and confused.
1985!
New Jersey.
During the months of investigation of abuse, the families try and cope. Everyone reacts differently. Some families move away. Some marriages break up. Parents have to decide if they will let their 3- and 4-year-olds testify in a courtroom about what Kelly did at We Care.
1985!
One day, a group of kids are taken to the local jail. They lock one of the dads inside a cell to show us that, once inside, Kelly cannot get out to hurt us or our families. They say,
Don't worry, this is where she will go after the trial.
my memory is that this is very comforting at the time, but my father remembers it differently. Years later, he tells me,
No, Di, you were scared. You were afraid you would be sent to jail too. You were afraid other people would think you had done something bad.
1986!
I start karate as an after-school program. We have to learn to stand at attention without moving. I'm always the kid who has to wiggle, has to giggle. I'm constantly in trouble. Soon, karate teaches me discipline. At my babysitter's, Jay exercises power over me and my body. But in karate, I have power over my own being. I am 7 years old.
1986.
every week I go to therapy. I'm supposed to talk about what happened to me, but I insist that I don't remember anything bad. Not that it didn't happen, just that I don't remember. I learned to avoid the therapist's questions. Every week, after therapy, I get pizza. Sometimes, I feel like I only go to therapy for the pizza.
1986.
I don't remember how many times Jay abused me. I do remember the day I stopped it from happening. We are alone in an empty room, no furniture. There are some mattresses on the floor where the boys wrestle, an arcade game in the corner. I know what he wants me to do, but I stay away from him. We circle around each other in a weird orbit.
1,
2.
3 eternities pass.
With all my courage, I tell him,
Just leave me alone. Go hump the mattress. You don't need me.
that day I break his gravitational pull.
Where did the time go? You know I still remember when I was a dreamer, true believer, knew that I could change the world back then, yeah. And I love so easily. I trusted and my heart was open wide. But you walked away and I learned to say my slow goodbyes.
Nineteen 1987.
1987.
1987.
1987.
Boston.
Every Sunday, my mama, Sister Juice, and I gather around the TV. We watch Eyes on the Prize on PBS, a documentary about the civil rights movements in the 60s and 70s. I am mesmerized by the fight for justice by brown and black people. I wish I was there. I want to fight too. We talk about how different people experience violence and why we have to know the history that isn't in our school books. Mama doesn't want my sister and me to be good little girls. She teaches us to find our own way in the world and to always know where we come from.
1987.
I start playing soccer. There is no girls' team, so I play on the boys' team, and I'm one of the best players. At school, I get teased a lot for being a tomboy, but on the field, no one teases me. At games, all the team moms cheer me on. I wish my parents would come to more of my games, but work always comes first. When I'm not playing soccer, I'm very lonely.
1987. I am playing hide and seek when it happens. It starts with him chasing me in and out of the buildings on our block. I know I'm not having fun when he won't let me try to find a new hiding place. I don't understand why he would do this. This is not how you play hide and seek. I feel his hand on my neck, his body pressed against mine, his sour breath. I think to myself,
Where should I go?
What should I do?
I don't remember how I got home. I go to the kitchen to tell someone what happened. My godsister is there, chopping carrots.
Chop,
Chop, chop.
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 I try to tell her what happened. She says,
What are you talking about? You look fine.
Why does she think I'm lying?
Why doesn't she believe me?
I stare at the carrots. That is when I truly learned the color orange. I don't remember what happened next. I don't remember where my sister was, my sister that I shared everything with. In the years that follow, my family never talks about what happened to me. Maybe they think I'm fine, but when I close my eyes, I still feel
Hands.
Breath,
Fear.
shame.
I'm 8 years old.
1988.
Ohio.
My sister and I spend every summer with our grandmother, our Nani. She's different from other Indian women I know. She shows me women can live independently, have an education and a career. Visiting her is the only time I feel safe from my father. Still, I'm scared of darkness and shadows, weighed down by secrets. At night, Nani sings me to sleep with a Hindi lullaby. Dheere, dheere, aare badal, dheere, aare badal, dheere, dheere, aa. Mera bulbul so raha hai, mera bulbul so raha hai, shorgun na macha, dheere, dheere.
1988! I realized pretty early on that my mother is not like other parents. She teaches me to question authority and think for myself. Instead of saying,
Just say no to drugs!
She explains to me, in detail, what each drug does to your body.
How drugs can be harmful in social settings.
And why some people choose to use them anyway.
After that, it's up to me to make my own decision.
1988.
Connecticut.
I'm at a rally with my mama and sister. There are tons of people, there's music and chanting. I'm entertaining myself by learning to ride a skateboard. After about 10 seconds, I fall and fall hard. I skin my knee with dirt and pebbles in my cuts. As I look up through my tears, I see a short, stocky man standing with my godmother. She says,
This is your father.
I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with this information. I've never met him before. All I can do is cry. I just want someone to take care of my knee. I won't see him again for another couple of years. I am 9 years old.
1988. After a 10-month trial, my daycare teacher, Margaret Kelly Michaels, is convicted by a jury of 115 counts of sexual abuse of 19 children between the ages of 3 and 5. She is also convicted of making terroristic threats, telling children she will kill their parents if they tell. She is sentenced to 47 years in prison. Parents are relieved, but the conviction does nothing to heal the pain she has caused us.
1989. Kings Island Amusement Park, Ohio.
It's a hot, sunny day. I'm standing in line for the log flume. Suddenly, I see him. I freeze. I haven't seen him in years, but I know at my very core, it's him.
1,
2,
3 seconds pass.
I'm hot. My palms are sweating. Waves of anger and sadness break over me. I want to run up to him, to yell, point, tell him how much he hurt me.
What if he ignores me?
what if he laughs at me?
What if he humiliates me?
I stay in line and go on the ride. I never see him again. I'm 10 years old.
1991.
Florida.
We're on a family vacation, all 4 of us in one hotel room. Late at night, I hear my mother beg my father not to have sex with her while we're in the room, but he forces her. I've been very angry at my mother for not seeing what was going on, for not helping me, but now I realize that she doesn't have any power or control in their relationship.
1991.
New York.
The question of where I came from still haunts me. I decide to try to contact my biological mother. I have her name on my baptismal certificate. So I look up Winifred McDonald in the phone book and find a listing in the Bronx. I get up the courage and make the call. A man answers the phone. I say,
Hi. May I please speak with Winifred McDonald?
there is a pause. I hear him handing the phone to someone. He says,
Winnie, your daughter's on the phone.
to this day, I don't know how he knew. When she answers the phone, I say,
Hi. My name is Gabriella Callender. I know this may sound weird, but my name used to be Gabriella McDonald.
I know you. I know you. You were born on December 27th, 1965 at 12:32 a.m. You were 8 pounds, 11 ounces. I need to tell you, I never gave you up. You were taken from me. I have been waiting for this day my whole life.
all my life, I was told I wasn't wanted. Now, for the first time, I know it's not true.
1992.
I'm 13 years old. My father stopped raping me just before I turned 12. Maybe he was afraid I would get pregnant. Now I'm scared for my little sister. I decide to tell my mother about the years of sexual abuse. I find her in the kitchen, washing the dishes. I take a deep breath.
Mom, I have something to tell you. Dad abused me.
The plate slowly slips from her hands and disappears into the soapy water. She looks at me over her shoulder.
Are you remembering what happened to you when you were 4?
The room spins.
The room spins.
The room spins.
I don't know what she means. I don't remember telling her anything when I was 4. I begin to cry. All I can think is,
She knew. She knew, and she chose to stay with him.
How could she let this happen to me?
she calls a therapist to get help and confronts my father. He is angry because my mother called an outsider. He calls a family meeting in our living room and says,
All that is in the past now. It's over, and Amitha's fine. She does well in school. Besides, I did the same thing to my nieces in India. They turned out fine too.
We are completely shocked to hear this news. I wonder who else he has raped.
1992.
The therapist is required to report the abuse to the state. She says to my mother,
Well, since he stopped on his own, maybe you can work this out together as a family.
the social workers, police officers, and prosecutors who question me are all white. They say things to me like,
We know this happens more in your culture.
You know, we could prosecute your mother for being complicit in this violence if you don't cooperate.
my father still has the keys to our house. I want to protect myself, my mother, and my sister. I'm afraid of retribution from my father, of shame from the entire world. My father only admits to fondling me one time. The prosecutors show me his signed statement and say,
Do you have anything to add? You can tell us the truth.
I am unable to tell them the extent of the violence I've experienced. He is sentenced to 5 years probation with no jail time. My mother decides to stay with him, and we're all still living in the same home. It is extremely unsafe.
1992.
I'm in therapy. I talk about my abuse, but I don't tell everything. One day, my therapist hands me a book called The Invincible Child. She says,
You are unlike any incest survivor I have ever known.
I'm extremely disappointed. I don't know exactly what kind of help I need, but now I'm certain this nosy white lady can't help me. I know I am not invincible. My so-called resilience can actually be a huge burden.
1992.
My father's physical and verbal violence towards all of us increases. He's terrified of losing his standing in the South Asian community and of going to jail. He says to my mother and me,
This is all your fault for involving strangers in our family business. You better fix this and get me out of trouble.
we are terrified, afraid to stay and afraid to leave.
1993.
Seattle.
I'm visiting my dad for the summer. I'm too old for camp and too young to drive. I'm bored. One day, I call up a girl I know. We've kissed a few times. We start talking about sexual experiences. She tells me she was raped by a boyfriend who was much older. I tell her about what happened at my babysitter's house. We are on the phone for 4 hours. It's the first time I've ever told anyone. I'm 12 years old.
1993.
Later that summer,
I'm back in Cincinnati, mowing the lawn. My mom tells me my dad is on the phone.
RJ, I just got the phone bill from last month. Do you know that there's a 4-hour phone call to Kentucky on here?
Yup.
Do you know how much that call cost?
A lot?
Turns out the call cost over $100. He's pissed, but it was worth it.
1993.
I'm at summer camp when I hear the news from my best friend, who is also a We Care survivor. Kelly has been granted an appeal. The media, which was quick to demonize her before, now portrays her as the victim of hysterical parents and overzealous prosecutors. My world turns upside down. Before, I was a survivor. Now, in the eyes of the media, I'm a liar. I'm 12 years old.
1993.
I am going through a terrible breakup. My girlfriend says,
Gabby, this isn't about me. This is about all the shit you've been through.
I never put it together before. I have consistently chosen romantic partners where I can cast myself in the role of the protector, the provider, the strong one. I always get my heart broken. It is as if I am recreating a dynamic with my mother. Inevitably, they choose a man over me, just like my mother chose my brother over me.
1993.
I escaped to Michigan for a summer program while my sister visits my grandmother. While we're away, my father begins beating my mother every day. Finally, he holds her against the wall by her neck and says,
I could kill you if I wanted to. You belong to me.
My mother finally gets the courage to leave. She flees to a coworker's house and gets a restraining order. My father is forcibly removed from our house by the police.
1993. Prosecutors call We Care survivors in for interviews to see if they can make the case for a retrial. They don't want Kelly to walk free on a technicality. Some kids who testified cannot bear the thought of going through it again. Others have moved away. I am interviewed to see what I remember about what Kelly did to us. I don't have any bad memories to testify about. I want to help, but I can't.
1993.
With my father out of the house, my sister, mother, and I begin to heal. The state orders my mother and me into individual and group therapy. I'm in a group with other teenage female incest survivors. It's the first time I realize other people have gone through what I went through. All of the other girls exhibit classic signs of sexual abuse.
Addiction,
Depression.
Social anxiety.
Promiscuity.
We all know I am the only one who will go away for college. Get out. Make it.
1993.
I have come so far in my life. I have known love, I have friends, I have music and community, but something has remained unspoken. I decide to write a letter to all of my siblings and confront them with the years of emotional and sexual abuse. In the letter, I say,
This is not about anger. This is about me letting go.
the letter goes out. It is a birthday present to myself. My siblings respond with rage and denial. My brother walks the letter to every house on the block. He says,
Can you believe Gabby made up all these lies? She's crazy.
my sister Lorraine says,
You have a lot of nerve. You were adopted. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us?
I tell them,
You are all welcome in my life, but I will not pretend that this did not happen, and I will not be invisible anymore.
it will be years before I see them again.
1994. The prosecutors decide not to pursue a new trial, and Margaret Kelly Michaels is released from prison. She goes on the talk show and late-night news circuit. In the eyes of many, she is vindicated, although she is never actually declared innocent of the abuse. We still have to live with the damage. Years later, We Care kids still show signs of trauma. Some struggle with addiction. Some still wet their beds. I still refuse to eat vegetables and resist authority like my life depends on it. I'm a good student, but I'm often in the principal's office.
1995.
Pauline, the youngest girl in my therapy group and the only other South Asian, is sent to a mental hospital. Soon after, she commits suicide. She is 13 years old. When I remember Pauline, I remember the difference between victim and survivor.
1995.
I finally tell my mother the full truth, that my father raped me for years. We try to prosecute him with this entire truth, but we are unable to move forward because of double jeopardy. Justice is not served.
Di,
Yes, RJ?
what do you think of when you hear the word justice?
It should mean fairness, dignity, forgiveness, and transformation. Unfortunately, in our society, the idea of justice has been corrupted by entitlement, greed, and power. I saw both outcomes of the justice system in my case of sexual abuse. My abuser was sent to prison for a long time, but received no treatment or rehabilitation. She was also released free into society, all but exonerated. I don't think either of these were justice for her or for us. I still have hope for the possibility of realizing justice.
LL, What do you think of when you hear the word justice?
Justice means saying I'm sorry and saying you will commit your life to love. It's like a meal that we've all contributed to and fought to have together. We get to say how we each want to be loved and how to replicate loving each other. We got to go back to the front porches, gardens, people's councils to support the healing of both the victims and perpetrators of these transgressions. Justice means all of our material and emotional needs get met, and everyone is filled with intention, pleasure, love, and pride.
For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hoped to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive.
And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again.
When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return.
And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid.
So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
Time did not wait for me to figure out things about those years. I was a fighter, true survivor, head up high. I learned to laugh through tears, yeah. And I hurt so easily, so deep that it did cut through time. Then I walked away and I learned to say my slow goodbyes over and over and over and over. Goodbye.
1995.
1995.
1995.
1995.
I am accepted to Georgetown University with financial aid to study international relations. On my first day, I see students wearing.
J. Crew.
Prada.
Gucci.
My mom says,
Isn't it nice all the kids dressed up for the first day of school?
however, I soon discovered Georgetown is a world of privilege. A week later, I call my mom and say,
Guess what? They weren't dressing up. And it wasn't for the first day.
1996.
Boston.
Because of my mixed background, I feel like I'm always on the other side of some line. The Mexicans want me to be more Mexican. The Puerto Ricans aren't sure what to make of me because my Mexicanness shines through. I'm at a dance party with my friend Amanda. She says,
Oh, you dance salsa like a Mexican.
What does that even mean? Can't I just dance salsa like me?
1996.
I still go to school with kids from WeCare. A couple of my friends from WeCare can talk about it with me, though it is difficult. They can remember a lot of details and are astonished that I don't remember the bad things that happened. They remember me being there with them while the abuse was happening. I know I'm not alone, but that doesn't make it any easier. I'm 15 years old.
1996.
Washington, D.C.
In college, I want to be a whole new person, forget everything that happened to me. I suddenly discover that boys think I'm pretty, that they say I'm the hot freshman girl of the South Asian community. I decide I should have a boyfriend, so I do. Sometimes I wonder,
Did it really happen?
Am I crazy?
amazingly, I have just one external scar from all the years of violence. It's a small mark here on my upper lip, where my father once savagely bit me. When I doubt myself, I can look in the mirror and know it all happened.
1997, Hampshire College.
It is my first day of college. I look around the room and think,
Damn, this is the whitest room I have ever been in.
the professor is talking about welfare and capitalism. The students are nodding like they have some kind of great insight, I think.
Have any of these motherfuckers ever been broke? This is not about theory. Real people live this experience. They are talking about me.
First, I feel invisible. Then I speak up. I tell them my truth, that welfare is not cool and neither is being first generation and Latino. I will not be a case study for these rich kids.
1997,
Ohio State University.
I'm a freshman in college. I'm planning to major in business. On the first day, they ask us,
Who here is planning to go into nonprofit work?
I'm the only one who raises my hand. Then they ask for volunteers for a role-playing exercise. They say,
Okay, so you are a marketing executive at Nike. You have to make a pitch to sell this new sneaker to your team. Go!
I start thinking about Nike and sweatshops and child labor. So I decide to play with it a bit. I say,
So, we have found a way to make this new sneaker even less expensive by finding new child laborers who will work for pennies. It's even less than what we pay our kids in Vietnam.
the room goes silent. Clearly, this approach to marketing is not appreciated. I quickly decide to switch majors.
1997,
Figuring out where I fit in has always been the name of the game. My first year of college, I played with the idea of being bisexual. That lasts about a week. I don't necessarily feel like a lesbian. That's not the word I want. My friend Lily uses the word queer, and now we're talking. The problem is, I don't feel safe sharing my body with anyone. So how can I define my sexuality? I'm ready to come into my own identity, but not ready to negotiate my own desire.
1998,
I never told my parents about the abuse I experienced. Growing up, my mom taught me to look at sex as an empowering, pleasurable act. Sex was not something to be ashamed of. When visiting my dad, he would use conversations about sex as an opportunity for male bonding. He'd ask,
Hey, RJ, getting any action?
his attitude was that men should play the field, get as much sex as possible. There are a lot of privileges that come with being a white, straight man. As an adult, I find it difficult to navigate the boundaries of sex. Sometimes I rush into situations because the opportunity is there. Sometimes I find the lines between sex and friendship are blurred. I lose friends and relationships because of it.
1998, London, England.
I spend a semester abroad. While away, I decide to legally change my last name to sever that last association with my father. I also try to emotionally confront the violence I experienced, but I find myself relying more and more on alcohol to numb myself. When it's time to write my final papers, I can't write a single word. I fail all my classes, and I don't have the language to explain why.
1998!
I Google the words radical and South Asian and discover a program in New York called Youth Solidarity Summer. I show up to the Brecht Forum and discover 28 other South Asian college students who identify as progressive. I feel at home for the first time in my life.
1999,
My mother calls me up. She says,
Good news! Dinesh and I are getting married. We might even try and have a baby together.
I'm hurt and angry. I feel like she's trying to move on, to have a clean start, but she's never addressed what happened in her marriage to my father and how she failed to protect my sister and me.
1999.
Ohio State University.
Starting out in mostly black communities, I was aware from an early age of systemic oppression. By my junior year of college, I am actively committed to the struggle for a more just world. I learn about and support
Striking workers on campus.
The shutdown of the World Trade Organization in Seattle.
Zapatista movement in Mexico.
Abolishing the prison industrial complex.
and the protests of black communities against police violence in my hometown of Cincinnati. It is the beginning of a lifelong commitment to organizing for social justice.
RJ,
Yes, LL?
what do you think of when you hear the word justice?
Justice is rarely as simple as saying sorry. Justice is doing sorry. Justice is dignity's echo. Justice is shifting and sharing power.
Gabby, what do you think of when you hear the word justice?
When I think of Justice, I wonder, who is Justice anyway, and why is she such a silent diva? Where was she born? Does she have a middle name? I don't remember seeing her there in the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti. Come to think of it, I didn't see her in New Orleans either. I don't even see her now in my own life, visiting the house of those who hurt me. Since I can't see her, does she even exist? Or is she around, but I can't see her because I've been blinded by my own definition of what is fair and what is not?
Amita, what do you think of when you hear the word justice?
Justice is my compass, though it is elusive. Justice for me will not be dealt by a court of law or a jury of my peers. No one can give back what my father stole from me or compensate me for my childhood. No amount of years behind bars would fill the emptiness left in me from years of violence. A just world is one in which peace and respect are the norm, and where trauma is truly the exception. We don't live in a just world, but I believe that another world is possible. 2000.
A friend invites me to a reading at Blue Stockings Bookstore on the Lower East Side. At the reading, this extremely regal woman with long flowing hair takes the stage. She performs her piece so passionately that she doesn't even notice the snot running down her nose. I feel connected to her passion. I know I will see her again.
2000.
The woman from the bookstore is Moana. She invites me to join her performance collective, Mahina Movement. In Moana, I find a spiritual twin. In Mahina Movement, I finally find a home for my voice and my soul. We will perform on stages all over New York and the world. It will change my life.
2001.
I am a junior in college. I write a term paper on trauma and memory, using myself as a case study. It's the first time that I recognize that my memory problems and food phobias are symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder related to the trauma I experienced at WeCare. It's the first time I research the history of my case and begin talking to my parents about my abuse as an adult.
2002.
I haven't had contact with my father in 7 years, but I know he's still prominent in the South Asian community in New Jersey. One night at a party in Brooklyn, a friend brings her parents over to say hello. They have been friends with my father for years. I can feel myself going numb.
You remember Amita, Vashish's daughter?
Oh, Amita, how are you? How is your mother?
I suck up all my courage.
Actually, we're a lot better now that my parents are divorced. He was very abusive to all of us, especially me. Actually, he raped me for years.
Well, people change, you know. Your father is a good person. He is very active in the temple. People come to him for blessings. You are lucky you live here. If you lived in India, you wouldn't be able to say such things out loud.
2002.
I major in peace and justice studies. I begin to seriously question the role of prisons. They don't rehabilitate or treat abusers. Prisons don't care why someone committed a crime. Keeping an abuser away from kids is just one of many approaches needed to deal with pedophiles. I begin to wonder what other solutions besides prisons are out there.
2003.
New York.
I take a workshop with Theater of the Oppressed. We are asked to take on poses of a personal experience of oppression. I find myself standing up with my arms extended in front of me, pushing myself away from something. I say,
No, I don't want to.
and it's like being back in the room with Jay. The return of that memory surprises me. I feel all the old feelings and emotions.
Heat,
Fear,
shame,
sorrow.
I know I have more work to do, but do not continue exploring it. I'm not quite ready.
2003.
I come to terms with the fact that I'm trans. I spend most of my time asking, what kind of man or boy do I want to be? It's hard to think that I now share some form of identity with my perpetrator. How do I accept my masculinity and not betray my own experiences of violence and sexism? How do I hold the teachings of all the feminists in my life? I want to flow between the identities that make up who I am. I don't want to have to give up my femme side. For the first time in my life, it feels right to wear pink.
2003. I have spent a lifetime trying to work around my fear of vegetables and peanut butter. These were choices I made as a child, and now I don't know how to undo them. I have been to therapists, nutritionists, I even tried hypnosis. I have to explain to people at least once a week why I don't eat certain foods. Finally, I decided to just say,
It's a survival strategy I chose at age 4 when I was experiencing sexual abuse.
a surprising number of people respond by disclosing their own sexual abuse to me. It shows me just how common this experience is.
2005.
Brooklyn.
I'm volunteering at a child care cooperative in Bushwick, organized by mothers. EJ, a woman I work with, tells me about her work with Generation 5, an organization that looks for responses to child sexual abuse beyond the criminal legal system. I check out their website and find a list of common characteristics of survivors.
Numbing pain with drugs or alcohol.
A need to please, to always be the giver.
Fear of intimacy.
Problems with personal boundaries.
Memory problems.
A crippling need to be perfect.
Never truly feeling safe.
Distrusting people.
Overtrusting people.
I recognize myself in that list.
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 2005.
I go back to EJ and disclose my abuse to her. For the first time, I began truly engaging with the idea of what it might mean to heal.
2005. One positive outcome of my abuse case is that a law is passed in New Jersey changing the regulations for daycare supervision. Now, there must be at least 2 adults in the room at all times, and doors must stay open. I hope this will help prevent what happened to me from happening to other kids. Looking back, my mom's advice to other parents is,
If your kids are in the care of another person, make sure to show up unannounced when they least expect it.
2005.
At age 26, I fall in love for the first time. After years of fearing physical intimacy, it is the first time I truly touch a body and let someone touch me. For the first time in my life, I'm in my own body with no fear. Her hands are not his. Her breath is not his. A world that was taken from me opens up. I feel so free that I laugh out loud.
2005.
Brazil.
I'm working in Brazil with indigenous people fighting to protect their land from commercial development. After witnessing a fight between the community leader and his girlfriend, she and I quickly began a romantic relationship. This severs my relationship with the organization. Again, I'm aware that I do not always feel in control of sexual situations. I know it is damaging to my life and my work. I'm just not sure how to change it.
2006.
New York.
I create in my mind the kind of partner I would like to be with, and she appears in my life. Her name is Stephanie. She doesn't want me to open doors for her, or pay for dinner, or bring her flowers. She doesn't need my protection. I have to learn to trust her, not to recreate old patterns, I have to change the way I look at love. It is hard work. She will become my life partner.
2006.
I participated in a 3-day intensive workshop by Generation 5. For the first time, I really recognize how my sexual practice is related to my experience of child sexual abuse. For the first time, I'm able to commit to changing my behavior and actually succeed.
2006.
I go home to Cincinnati to see my mother. We often take walks together to talk and catch up. I tell her about my abuse for the first time. She cries, and I cry. She asks me questions about my well-being and my needs. She supports me and encourages me in my path to healing.
2006.
New York.
I am riding the subway when a tall man presses up against me. Maybe it's just rush hour traffic, but suddenly I am there. I am 8. He is here on the train with me. It's like it's all happening again. It's a trigger.
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 Trigger. Trigger.
Sometimes I'm afraid that people will say to me,
That's in the past. You seem fine. Aren't you over it by now?
I want so badly to tell people how the abuse has shaped my whole life, my relationships, my ability to feel safe. It's always with me.
2006.
When people hear my story, even small parts of it, they often respond by saying,
You're amazing. I don't know how you do it.
I didn't choose what happened to me, and I didn't choose my survival strategies. Sometimes I'm afraid to share my full experience. I don't want to overwhelm people or diminish the experiences of other survivors who might feel their abuse wasn't as bad as mine.
Sometimes I just want to fall apart. I want to show up late, skip my responsibilities, not do my job well, and just be a big mess. Sometimes I am tired of being resilient. I want something I never had. I want a mother who is a mother. I'm tired of being my own mother. I want someone who can give me some resilience for my resilience.
2007. I tell someone I know about my experience of abuse. I'm shocked when she says,
Oh, do you think that's why you're gay?
and I want to say,
No. If everyone who was sexually abused as a child turned out to be gay, the whole world would be gay.
2007.
It is not until I am in my mid-20s that I find a doctor I can trust. Most doctors don't have a clue how invasive a routine exam can be to a survivor. The first time I see my new doctor, she says,
Before I examine you, I want to ask, have you ever been the victim of sexual violence?
It's such a simple question, but it makes so much sense to ask it before you get up in someone's parts. I know she gets me.
2008.
Except for my mother, I haven't had contact with my family since the letter. One day, I get a call from my brother Lenny.
There's a fire at the house. Ma's trapped inside. It's bad. You better come quick.
2008.
I am going to my mother's funeral. I am going to claim my place in this family. I am going to walk with them into the church. Stevie comes up to me. He wants to embrace me in front of everybody to show what a good brother and family man he is. I just hold up my hand and stop him in his tracks. He doesn't have power over me anymore.
2009. I'm diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I wonder if years of eating packaged and processed foods actually contributed to my cancer. I made the choice at age 4 not to eat certain things because of the abuse I was experiencing. I feel like somehow, even after all these years, what Kelly did still has power over me, and I hate it. 2009.
I work as a nanny to financially support myself while pursuing my social justice work. I feel it is important for men to share domestic and caretaking work. Sometimes I'm afraid people will make assumptions about me if they know I was abused. I know I would never hurt a child.
2009.
I'm in graduate school, and I'm again having trouble completing my written assignments. But now I can recognize the symptoms of chronic post-traumatic stress disorder before it spins out of control. I recognize this is a legitimate mental health issue and I tell my classmates and professors what's going on. I still struggle with shame when I can't complete a paper, but I'm able to give myself space to acknowledge that I am still healing.
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 2009!
After months of abnormal tests, I am diagnosed with endometrial cancer. As a survivor and queer and trans person of color, I don't feel safe being examined by doctors. I go to one doctor to talk about my hormones and my cancer. When I explain that I am trans, he says,
So, what are your sexual fantasies? Who do you have sex with?
I never go back. The oncologist tells me the best treatment is to remove my uterus and ovaries. I'm angry. I think of generations of indigenous, Puerto Rican, and Black women who were sterilized against their will and without their consent. I don't want them to take from me too. I have to make a decision in the face of so many triggers, too many to count. I am afraid, but I say yes to surgery.
2009. I don't really see myself as a parent in the future. I recognize that my own parents suffered horribly because of my abuse. They are still tortured by guilt. But I have also come to question their decision to become parents, knowing they would have to leave me in the care of others. I feel like they didn't consider the risks involved until it was too late. I can't guarantee I could protect my own children, so I don't feel justified taking that risk.
2009!
I was never 100% sure I would carry a child, but after the surgery, the loss of that option weighs on me. I have to learn to let go. I have to ask my friends to help hold this loss with me. All my life, I've lived as a survivor. Never did I imagine that I would add to its meaning. I take the opportunity to get to know my body all over again, even the parts that were marked by my perpetrator.
2009!
For all the pain of my childhood, I miss my mother. I would stay away for years and then reach out to her and then leave again. I think she understood at the end why. I think she knew what I was going through but didn't have the power in her own life to stop it. I wish just once my mother would have said these words to me.
Gabby, I'm so proud to have you as a daughter. We love you and we will always love you. I'm sorry that Stevie abused you. It's so sad to know a son is capable of doing something that horrible to anyone, let alone his own sister. We wish we could have protected you. None of this was your fault.
2009!
I interview my mom about her experience of my abuse for an oral history project. I want to ask her questions about things I can't remember, but also document my family's experience, to have it on record, to help break the silence other parents face. My mom wants other parents to learn from her struggle too. It's not easy for her to talk about it, but it is a healing process for both of us.
2009! I now feel confident in my ability to make the right decisions around sexual relationships. It has taken a lot of work, but I know I was able to shift my way of being in the world and heal. I draw on this knowledge in my community work. I know that with the right tools and support, it is possible to make real change.
2011!
I know I want children in the future. It terrifies me that parents can't prevent abuse, but if such tragedy should happen to my children, I hope to nurture their resilience and encourage their self-esteem. I hope I can model healing and give them the childhood I never had. I am working to build a more just world for all children.
2011! It is not easy to share these stories publicly. Each time I tell my story, I learn and understand more. Through sharing, I believe we can support the healing of others. I think this work can support prevention, intervention, and responses to child sexual abuse that go beyond state systems. Sharing this, I feel more whole. We feel more whole. Life is richer.
2011! A year ago, I found Safe Horizon, a therapeutic counseling center dedicated to trauma-specific therapy. It is totally different from my past experiences with therapy. I have dedicated myself to working on my vegetable phobia and integrating my traumatic memories. I am hopeful for the future. Someday, I might even eat a salad.
2011. In the process of doing this play, I learned that both my parents are survivors of sexual violence. I never knew. I realized how being a survivor has permeated my life in so many ways. It will always be there. I have learned that I love my body and my heart and who I am, and I can better protect myself physically and emotionally.
2011.
I am more than a survivor of abuse. I am Black, adopted, gay in a straight world. I'm an artist, singer, friend, lover, partner. I know that no matter what I went through in life, nothing can hold me down. My life is beautiful and a miracle. I am very thankful and very, very blessed.
2011. March 12th, 2011.
Tonight, we are gathered in a theater that was built as a haven for neglected and abused children.
Tonight, we represent some of the children who survive.
We are the triumphant ones.
But there are many more who cannot speak out, either out of fear or out of shame.
Most children who are abused never tell anyone.
Tonight, we honor those who can't speak, and we break the silence for them.
My name is Gabriella Marie Callender. I was born on Tuesday, December 27th, 1965. My biological mother told me I had the most beautiful eyes she had ever seen. It was winter. Amita?
My name is Amita Yalgi Swadin. I chose my last name when I was 20 years old. In Sanskrit, it means self-rule. I was born on July 8th, 1978, in Columbus, Ohio. It was summer. RJ?
My name is Raymond Guy McConney Jr. I was born on August 9th, 1979, in Cincinnati, Ohio. My mother wanted to name me Nicholas, but my father filled out the paperwork and named me after himself. It was summer. LL?
My name is Lucia Leandro Maqueda Quetzali Jimeno Cardona King. On my birth certificate, it says Lucia Maqueda Jimeno. My twin sister and I were born in Boston, Massachusetts on May 3rd, 1979 at 8:52 a.m. It was spring. Di?
My name is Diana Ruth Sands. I was born on March 16, 1981, in Albany, New York. It was the beginning of the end of a long winter in upstate New York. The time for renewal, the time for hope.
Sometimes I don't like to look at my life. Sometimes I look so hard, I've got to let it go. And sometimes I think out loud and laugh out loud. Well, sometimes I cry, but I know that I still love me. I still